and welcome back to our YouTube channel. Last week we started a brand new science unit about reptiles, and we're going to continue talking about reptiles today. I've really been having a good time getting to show you my own personal reptiles and getting to share information and facts about them with you, so I really hope you're enjoying seeing them and learning about them in this portion of the reptiles unit. So last week we learned about ball pythons, and we also learned about crested geckos, and you got to see my ball pythons and my crested gecko. So if you have not watched those two videos yet, go ahead and go back and watch those first before you finish this one. You can access those videos by going to the playlists on our YouTube channel and clicking on the science unit. All right, today we're going to be talking about a brand new kind of reptile, and that is corn snakes, which, as you can probably guess by the name, are a species or type of snake. Okay, so I have my corn snake here with me today, and here he is. This is Sunny, my corn snake. If you remember from the ball python video, I told you that ball pythons can come in lots of different colors, and we call that their color morph. Corn snakes also come in lots of different colors and patterns as well. So Sunny here, his color morph is called butter okiti. And you can kind of see that in his coloring. He's got that bright yellow. That's where that butter comes in. And that's only going to get brighter as he gets older. You can kind of see almost like a lavender. Sorry, I scared him. You can almost see like kind of a lavender, like a light purple in his color, and that's going to get like brighter white as he gets older. And the orange is going to get brighter too. So as he grows, he's kind of going to have a pattern on his back that I think looks like sunny side up eggs, which is why his name is Sunny. So he's a boy. He's a baby corn snake. He's going to get bigger than this. He will get to be about the same length as ball pythons, about 4 or 5 feet long, except corn snakes don't get as big around as ball pythons. Ball pythons get about as big around as a baseball or a softball. Corn snakes probably get as big around as like a golf ball. So they don't get quite as thick. Right now he's about as thick as like, well, you can see he's about as thick as my bracelet or like a pen or a pencil. So he's not very thick or big around right now. But he sure is cute. So his morph is called butter okiti, like I mentioned, and unfortunately I don't have an example of what a normal corn snake would look like in the wild, but you wouldn't find this color in the wild. He's kind of like a version of like albino. If you could see him closely, he's actually got pink eyes. They probably look red in the video, but in real life they're more pink than they are red, so that's pretty cool. All right, just like we've been doing with the other reptile videos, we're going to go over a few important facts that are on the poster behind me. All right, so corn snakes, where can you find them in the wild? They're actually from the United States, which is really cool. The other animals we've talked about have been from places far away, but corn snakes can be found right here in our own country. But we wouldn't find them in Chicago, though. They are not out in the wild in Illinois. But if you were to go down to Florida, that's where you'll find them most often. The biggest population of corn snakes in the wild is in Florida. But they're found kind of on the southeast part of our country. So in some of the southern states and on the east coast, you'll find them all the way up into the bottom part of New Jersey, which surprises me because I feel like New Jersey gets too cold, especially in the winter for these guys. But I guess they just, I don't know, kind of hibernate or bury themselves well in the ground so that they can make it through to the next spring and summer. But you'll find them in the eastern states and southern states like Florida, Georgia, Louisiana. Right around there is where they live naturally. So I think it's pretty cool they're found in our country. All right, what do they eat? They eat mice. They could also eat rats like ball pythons, but here's the thing is I mentioned just a minute ago that corn snakes are never going to get as big around as ball pythons. So an adult corn snake is only going to be about this big around like a golf ball. They don't need a big rat to eat. They can just eat mice. A corn snake will never need anything bigger than a mouse to eat, which makes it a good pet if you don't typically like feeding them rodents. You'll never have to worry about feeding them a big rat. You can just feed them a mouse, which is smaller and a little bit easier to deal with. If you tried to feed them rats, it would just end up making them too fat because they don't need food that big. And also it could hurt them if they got something that was too big for them to try to swallow. Snakes swallow their food whole, if you didn't know. They just kind of open up. Their jaw actually opens up past where our jaw could open, and they swallow their food whole, and they're able to close their mouth. They can open their mouth way bigger than their head is. It's very interesting to watch, but I'm not going to show you what it looks like for them to eat. All right, let's see. So they eat mice. They don't need anything bigger. We can find them in the United States. And now let's talk about what environment corn snakes like. So corn snakes like warm temperatures. They don't like cool temperatures, and they don't like too hot. They like temperatures that are pretty good to us, like 75 to 80 degrees. Think about a nice, like, warm spring day or a little bit of on the cooler side of a summer day. That's the kind of weather that these guys like. So they like a nice temperature down in Florida kind of day, 75, 80 degrees. The humidity that they like is around 40%, which is typically what we're comfortable with too. That makes them probably one of the easiest snakes to care for because they like temperatures and humidity like we do. If they were to have trouble shedding and it was coming off in pieces, if you didn't know, snakes shed all in one piece. So a sign that they were having trouble shedding and that their humidity wasn't good enough, that they needed it a little bit more moist in their enclosure. If that were to happen, what you could do is you could put in like a humidity box. You could fill a little like container with moss or some moist wood chips or things like that, and that would help them to shed. But I'm getting sidetracked here. Let's move along. So they like temperatures and humidity like we like, which makes them an easy pet to keep. Even easier than ball pythons as far as snakes go, because ball pythons, you have to regulate their temperatures a little bit more. They need it to be really hot. They like a certain amount of humidity, but corn snakes are comfortable like we are. And lastly, corn snakes are terrestrial snakes, which means that they live on the ground. You won't find these guys up in trees. However, they do like to climb a little bit. So if they're out, like you could find these guys like probably in like meadows or woodsy type places, fields in Florida and the southeast states. They would like, you know, climbing up and over like logs and things like that on the ground, but you're not going to find them in trees. So they like places where they can climb and hide on the ground, and also where they can bask. What bask means is to kind of lay out in the sun, what we imagine as tanning. So sometimes if you ever see a corn snake in the wild, you'll see them just kind of sitting, enjoying the sun. So they like being on the ground and having good places to hide, to lay out in the sun, and also to kind of just slither up and over. Corn snakes are a little more active than like ball pythons. If you compare how much he's moving around compared to how much the ball pythons were moving around in the ball python video, you probably noticed that he's moving around a lot more. Corn snakes are a type of snake called colubrids. That's a big word, but colubrids are known for being kind of wiggly and moving around a lot, especially as babies. But to be honest, they kind of wiggle and move around a lot their whole life. So now some fun facts about corn snakes. And one fact I want to tell you is why they're called corn snakes. Back in the day, people thought they might be called corn snakes because they eat corn. That's not true. These guys eat mice, and that's pretty much it. But they're called corn snakes because it's hard to tell on him, but on a normal corn snake, their belly pattern, you can kind of see, couldn't you kind of see how it kind of looks like a peach and white version of a piano instead of a black and white version? Well, in regular colored corn snakes, this peach and white part on the belly would be black and white like a piano. And also the tops of their bodies are more like bright red and orange and brown. So they look like that old like maize type of corn. So that's why they were called corn snakes, because they thought the pattern on their belly and the colors looked like that maize type of corn, that old style corn, not yellow corn like we typically think of when we think of eating corn. So that's why they're called corn snakes. Another fun fact about them is when you go to pick up a corn snake, or sometimes when they're eating, they'll try to tell you to stay away by warning you, and the way that they warn you isn't biting, it's shaking their tail really fast like they're a rattlesnake. You typically see it in wild corn snakes because they're not used to being held by people, but you also see it in babies. So sometimes when I go to pick Sunny up out of his enclosure, he'll shake his tail really fast, pretending he's a rattlesnake, to try to warn me to stay away. It's pretty cute because he's so tiny and he's obviously not a rattlesnake. So his little shaking or rattling of his tail is just silly. It's not really a warning because he can't hurt me. Like we mentioned in the previous video, snakes can bite because they have a mouth, but they're unlikely to. If I go by their head and try touching them, they're just gonna move away from me. Sunny's never tried biting me. Corn snakes are known for being really friendly and having a good temperament. They're a good first snake if you're ever interested in having a pet snake. I would recommend getting one a little bigger than Sunny though, because corn snakes are known for being really good escape artists. And you have to be really careful the kind of enclosure that you have for baby corn snakes because they can get out easily. So it might be a little better to get one that's a little bigger because it'll be probably a little less likely to escape. And also there's more body to grab onto when he's bigger, or when a corn snake is bigger, so they won't be as tiny and you'll have an easier time holding on to them when they're wiggling around. Another interesting fact about corn snakes is that I believe they're the most popular pet snake in the United States. They kind of go back and forth between ball pythons and corn snakes being the two most popular pet snakes. And the reason for that is they're both, affordable, and they're both pretty easy to take care of, although corn snakes are a little bit easier than ball pythons to take care of just because they don't need as high of heat and humidity. Just like ball pythons, they only eat once a week, and that means they don't go to the bathroom that often either, so they're really easy to take care of. Oh, one thing specifically about Sunny, but I guess about all snakes, is they all have a little bit different of patterning on their head. They call that a head stamp. And Sunny's head stamp reminds me of little teeny tiny bunny ears. I don't know if you can see, he kind of has white markings on his head, and they remind me of little bunny ears. Sunny the bunny is his little nickname. So that's Sunny, the corn snake. I hope you've enjoyed seeing him. I wish I had a little bit better example of a big corn snake or what they look like normally, because I know he doesn't have your typical coloring, but that's okay. He's pretty to see. What you're going to be doing now is you're going to fill out your worksheet about corn snakes using the information that you learned in this video. I really hope that you're liking this reptile series of videos. Tomorrow we're going to be learning about a new kind of animal, so I will see you then. Thank you. Bye-bye.